Welcome back to the channel. What was supposed to be a coronation for a new star turned into a dramatic, rain-soaked chess match that has left the tennis world on the edge of its seat. In the sweltering humidity of Washington, D.C., a generational clash unfolded at the Mubadala DC Open, only to be stolen away by the fury of Mother Nature herself. On one side stood the future, 21-year-old Alexandra Eala of the Philippines, the fearless giant killer who arrived in the American capital with nothing to lose and everything to prove. On the other stood the present, world number 3 Jessica Pegula, the American stalwart, the daughter of billionaire Buffalo Bills owners, a woman who has made a career out of crushing dreams with her relentless baseline consistency. This was a rematch of their epic 2025 Miami Open semifinal, a match Pegula won, but one that announced Eala as a force to be reckoned with. The stakes in Washington? A first WTA 500 title for Eala, and a third trophy of the season for Pegula. The tension was palpable as the players took the court, but the atmosphere was even heavier than the pressure. The skies above the Rock Creek Park Tennis Center were dark and foreboding. The final had already been delayed by 3 hours due to the threat of thunderstorms. The crowd, a sea of Filipino flags, waited with bated breath, having seen their heroine dismantle legends like Naomi Osaka and Alina Svitolina just days prior. When play finally began, it wasn't just a tennis match, it was a collision course with history. But as the first set unfolded, it became clear that this final was going to take a shocking turn. In a twist that could have been written by a Hollywood screenwriter, the veteran Pegula weathered the storm, not just the crowd's deafening support for Eala, but the swirling winds, to seize control. She captured the first set 6-4 in a masterclass of experience and clutch play. Yet, just as the young Filipina began to find her footing and momentum shifted in the second set, the heavens opened. Rain washed away Eala's chance to strike back, suspending the match in a moment of agonizing suspense. This is the story of a match that began with thunderous anticipation and ended, temporarily, in silence. A story of a seasoned champion finding her edge and a rising star snatching it back, only to be frozen in time by the storm. Let's break down exactly how the 2026 Mubadala DC Open Women's Final took a shocking turn before the rain stopped everything. To understand the seismic shockwaves that rippled through the court on that humid Sunday afternoon, we must first look at the path that led Alexandra Eala, or Alex as she is known to the growing legion of fans, to this final. Entering the tournament, the narrative was one of youthful ambition meeting the brutal reality of the professional tennis tour. Eala was the underdog, but she was an underdog with a bite. Before the match even began, the atmosphere was charged with the electricity of a nation's hope. A massive contingent of Filipino fans descended upon Washington, their passion turning what could have been a neutral final into what felt like a home match for Eala. This was no small detail. The pressure on a young player to perform in front of such overwhelming support can be both a superpower and a curse. Eala had been on a dream run that defied her ranking. She had already proven that her semi-final appearance at the 2025 Miami Open was not a fluke. In Washington, she carved a path of destruction through the draw that would make any veteran envious. She didn't just beat the defending champion, Leylah Fernandez, she dismantled her. She swept past former world number 1 Naomi Osaka with a stunning 6-4, 6-2 victory that showcased her tactical intelligence and booming left-handed forehand. To reach the final, she had toppled the number 2 seed, Alina Svitolina, adding a 6th top, 10 victory to her resume for the year. This wasn't a Cinderella story based on luck. It was the emergence of a player who had spent years honing her craft in the Rafa Nadal Academy, ready to seize her moment. I would say, if I compare myself now to then, I'm more well-rounded, Eala said in the lead-up to the final, reflecting on her last encounter with Pegula. I think I'm physically a little better. Serve has also improved quite a bit. It was a bold statement of self-belief, suggesting that the ghost of the 2025 defeat in Miami, a grueling 3-set battle, had been exorcised. She was no longer the wide-eyed challenger. She was a contender. Coming into the final, Eala was set to jump to a career-best 24th in the world rankings. The trajectory was clear. Standing at the precipice of her first WTA Tour title, Eala was not just playing for a trophy. She was trying to cement her place as the new standard-bearer for Philippine tennis. The rock star status SH had achieved, a term she herself remarked upon with humility, was now a heavy mantle. However, ambition often meets reality in the form of Jessica Pegula. The world number 3, known for her flat, penetrating ground strokes and unflappable demeanor, is the ultimate gatekeeper of the top echelon of women's tennis. Her father, Terry Pegula, may own the Buffalo Bills, but on the court, Jessica is the one making tackles. This season alone, she had already lifted the trophy at the WTA 1000 Dubai Tennis Championships and the WTA 500 Charleston Open. She was a player who knew how to win, a player who expected to win. As the tournament's top seed, she was the heavy favorite, and she was well aware of the storm she was about to face, both from the crowd and from the weather. "It's going to be a battle," Pegula admitted before the match. "Alex, I'm a big fan of her. She's the future of the tour, and she's already here." It was a gracious compliment, but it also served as a reminder. The future might be bright for Eala, but the present belonged to Pegula. When the delayed match finally got underway, the anticipation was almost unbearable. The crowd, an ocean of blue and red Filipino flags, roared for every point Eala won. Yet, the early exchanges were a jarring reality check. It became immediately apparent that the immense pressure of the moment, compounded by the relentless support, was a double-edged sword. Pegula, the consummate professional, acted as the spoiler. She was like a masterful poker player, watching her opponent's tells, waiting for the moment to strike. The first set was a classic tactical battle, but one where the veteran's experience shone through. Eala came out firing, holding her serve with authority and applying pressure, breaking through early to take a 3-2 lead. The crowd erupted. It felt like the momentum was hers. But Pegula, who has made a career out of comebacks, having rallied from 5-2 down in her semi-final against Diana Schneider, didn't panic. She calmly reset, finding her rhythm from the baseline. The turning point came in the 5th game of the set. After an exchange of breaks, Pegula unleashed a blistering forehand service return winner to break Eala's serve. It was a message: "I am in control here." The game swung heavily in Pegula's favor. While Eala was dominating her service points statistically, winning 80% of her first serve points in the early going, it was Pegula who was converting on the big points. She saved 2 breakpoint opportunities that could have allowed Eala to serve for the set, escaping danger with an ace and a forehand winner. This was the shocking turn. Just as Eala was poised to stamp her authority on the final, Pegula snatched the wind from her sails. "I found a little rhythm on the return, served a little bit smarter, and I was able to play some good tennis, kind of take control of the momentum," Pegula later reflected on her style of play. She broke Eala again in the 9th game when the Filipina sent a forehand long, immediately serving out the set at love to take it 6-4. In just 40 minutes, Pegula had silenced the crowd. She was hitting 14 winners to Eala's 4, punishing any short ball that came her way despite the loss of the set. There was a resilient glimmer in Eala's eyes. She had been here before. She had lost the first set in many of her matches, only to win in 3. As the second set began, the tension, if anything, intensified. There was a palpable sense that Eala was settling in, that she was figuring out the Pegula puzzle. She held serve with determination to take a 2-1 lead in the second. The statistics were even. Neither player had faced a break point in the second set. The momentum was slowly, painfully, starting to swing back towards the challenger. Alex Eala, the 21-year-old Filipino phenom, had weathered the initial storm of the champion. Now she was fighting back. She was looking to prove that she was not just the future of tennis. She was the present. She was looking to break Pegula's serve and seize control of the final. As Pegula prepared to serve to get back on level terms, the atmosphere was electric. The final was taking its most critical turn. The stage was set for a monumental comeback. And then, the rain began to fall. The shock in the stadium wasn't just about a point, a game, or even a set. It was the moment the sport itself was put on hold. Just as Alex Eala began to build her momentum in the second set, fighting back from the brink of defeat, the heavens opened. At 2-1 in the second set, with Pegula preparing to serve, the umpire called for a stoppage due to rain. It seemed like a minor disruption at first, a typical weather delay in the unpredictable mid-Atlantic summer. But this was no passing shower. The rain intensified, sweeping across the Rock Creek Park Tennis Center, accompanied by lightning and thunder. What followed was a brutal, soul-destroying wait. For the players, the immediate challenge was mental. For Eala, the stoppage was a brutal halt to her momentum. She had just weathered the American storm and was pushing forward. For Pegula, it was a chance to regroup and refocus after seeing her lead shrink. The rain delay, which lasted over 5 more hours into the evening, was a test of endurance beyond the tennis court. The crowd, many of whom had camped out to support Eala, stayed, braving the elements. They huddled under umbrellas, hoping for a miracle as the radar showed bands of relentless rain. It was a tense, frustrating, and ultimately heartbreaking vigil. The match was initially suspended, with organizers hoping for a window to resume. As the hours ticked by, hope began to fade. The conditions at the William H.G. Fitzgerald Tennis Center were simply unplayable. The heavy rain left the court slick and dangerous, and the persistent lightning made it impossible for anyone to be on the grounds. At 9:06 p.m. local time, the official announcement came. The tournament organizers, forced to make the most difficult of decisions, called off play for the day. The women's final would be postponed until Monday, August 3rd, at noon. The men's final, featuring Taylor Fritz and Rafael Joda, which had never even started, was also pushed to Monday. The visual of the empty stadium, the covers thrown over the court, the disappointed faces of the Filipino fans, and the quiet resignation of the players encapsulated the shocking turn of events. The final had taken a turn no one expected. It wasn't decided by a forehand or a backhand. It was decided by a weather forecast. The stoppage of play, with Pegula leading 6-4, 1-2, left a void in the final. The match was now a 2-day affair, a marathon that tested not just skill, but mental fortitude. The players were now forced to digest the events of the day, to sleep on their successes and failures, and to prepare for a battle that would now be played under the hot Monday sun. The drama had become a cliffhanger, leaving the tennis world waiting with bated breath for the final chapter. The suspension of the final was more than just a delay. It was an unexpected, high-stakes strategic break. For the veteran Jessica Pegula, the interruption could be seen as a disruption, a pause in her ability to apply pressure. Yet, for the 32-year-old, experience often translates to resilience. She had the advantage. She was serving next, and she had the comfort of knowing she had already weathered the crowd's loudest storms. She had beaten Eala before and knew the blueprint. The stop allowed her to sleep on her game plan and avoid the hero ball that sometimes derails players trying to close out a match. However, the break represented a massive psychological opportunity for Alexandra Eala. She was down a set but was gaining momentum in the second. The enforced pause gives her time to reset mentally, to watch the tape, and to realize what was working. She was starting to read Pegula's serve and ground strokes. The short, sharp rain delay could be the lifeline she needed to come out on Monday and break Pegula's serve immediately. The match that was hanging in the balance was now entirely up for grabs. The broader context of this decision also had significant consequences. The WTA and ATP tours operate on a grueling schedule. The Canadian Open, National Bank Open, was already underway in Toronto and Montreal. A Monday finish puts these finalists in a serious time crunch. Had they won or lost, Pegula and Eala would need to travel and potentially play just hours after this final. The organizers' decision to push the final back, while unavoidable due to safety concerns, effectively extends the tournament into the next week. This puts the players at a disadvantage in their next events, and it places a tremendous burden on the competitors who have to shift their travel plans. As the clock ticks toward noon on Monday, the narrative has shifted. The question is no longer just who is the better player, but who will handle the psychological restart better? Eala's incredible run had brought her to the brink. She had faced the world number 3 and was fighting back. She had the support of a nation behind her. Jessica Pegula, the champion, the billionaire's daughter, the fighter, had to hold her nerve. She had been here before, had seen her dreams play out under the bright lights. The rain that stopped everything in Washington created an invisible, high-stakes battle of mental fortitude. The 2026 Mubadala DC Open Women's Final remains unfinished business. Alexandra Eala is chasing her first WTA title. Jessica Pegula is aiming for her 12th and her second in Washington. The story, much like the weather that interrupted it, is unpredictable, powerful, and compelling. The final chapter is yet to be written. The world is watching. The storm has only just begun.